everybody. I'm Hot Rod Bob Beck, and you got gas, the great American auto scene. And along with me, as always, our lovely Bruce Barker.
Hi, Bruce. You got me so bad.
I got you.
Oh, man. I was whining 60 seconds before showtime. It's like, what a dummy. I just bumped my face into the microphone. I was like, oh, gee. Yet more reason to show the lovely Anna Octane next.
Yes, there we go.
Wow.
Hey, so we're back again. It's another Wednesday night under the lights here at the Great American Auto Scene. We're glad you could be here. We've got a lot of things to talk about tonight. We're going to memorialize a friend who just passed away, one of the legends of drag racing. We'll talk about him in a little bit. We're going to have a couple of people call in, talk about him, people that have raced against him, a crew chief for him, I guess you could say. We're going to talk about some of the hot laws that are affecting us today and what you can do to be part of the resolution of them. Don't just sit on the side of the road and let these things go by. I forgot what I was going to say there.
Don't sit in front of your computer and do
the problem
nothing.
is I brush my teeth and I can't do a thing with them. So it's just all over. It's a normal Wednesday night for me. But we're going to talk to you about what you can do and how you can get involved in stopping some of these crazy laws that are affecting our hobby and your everyday car as well.
Yeah, well, and viewers and listeners, if you could only hear the conversations right before showtime. Yeah. But, that would be the case with all radio and television. But
the outtakes from the studio will be available. No, we don't want them to hear what we were talking about.
That's right. Well, and, some of the stuff, too, was about the legislation and just the notion that, it's a full-time job for some people to make up new laws that others will comply to.
Well, and we find that the laws that we're going to be talking about are presented by people that have absolutely no interest in what we do or what we care about.
Yeah.
They've got their agenda and they're going for it. And one of the things we'll talk about is the E15 fuel that many people are trying to push, and it's at the cost of your vehicle and the price of food, because actually the E15 is corn-based. Well, that's raised the price of corn worldwide. And that is a food staple that is becoming very short in supplies for food usage.
Yeah.
And that's to feed animals, to feed people, because it's more lucrative to use it to make methanol.
Yeah.
The problem is methanol costs more to make and pollutes just as much as producing gasoline.
And it produces less power.
Produces less power in the engine. It also damages your engines.
So the only plus, the only positive, and of course, Anna, you reported on this weeks ago, is that somebody gets money.
It sells more corn.
Yeah.
But that corn is genetically modified, too.
Oh.
So you're going to eat it and have alien corn babies one day and not even know it.
Well, either that or it's every time I pass gas.
It turns into nitro.
It'll be clear. It's clean. Your gas is now clean. Oh, that's good. I've got an emission control device on my butt. So, anyway, we'll talk about that a little bit more.
That's going to get a lot of good ratings this night.
Oh, yeah. We're going to be talking about the laws in just a moment, but we're waiting right now. We're going to talk about, it is April. And in April, we always bring you the latest and greatest in tools and equipment for your car. And we have got some great things for you. When you're working on a car, and you'll know this too, Anna, you sometimes drill holes that aren't quite right. I mean, not all of us are professionals.
Wait a second. How come I'm the one who drills bad holes? Men drill bad holes too.
But they don't tell anybody about it. They just stop dating them. No, never mind. I can't do that. No.
Well, we have we have parts that are a solution. There is one of them right there.
This is a special bolt, and it's for those holes that you drill that are too near the edge of something. So the head of the bolt is offset so that you can tighten it down. Right?
Well,
yes, that's a deep subject.
Rather than learn how to drill properly, they're just creating parts. No. Yes, you must learn how to drill properly instead of having parts pick up the slack like this.
Human error. And talk about slack. The next one, please.
That's the kind of drilling that I do.
This is when you've drilled a hole in two different parts and the holes do not match. They're close, but they do not match. So
you
it's an
can use
offset
this-
bolt.
Yeah, an offset
Yes.
bolt.
It's an offset bolt, so you can get into that hole with just a little bit off center.
I've been called worse
You have
than
been.
an offset bolt.
Well, you
There's
are
me.
kind of off center.
I'm that bolt right there.
Now this is for those holes that you countersunk too deeply.
Well, no, you can actually use a plier on that and grab it and twist it.
No, we have a better one for that later on.
Well, would you use a flat screwdriver for that bolt?
No, that one probably takes an Allen wrench. All right. Now this one is very special. It's for those holes that you drilled crooked, and then
Well,
you straightened
actually-
up the nut, and it's hard to start.
Well, actually,
but
that
once it's
bolt
in there,
has a big hiney. I cannot lie. That bolt's
it's
got
the
big butt.
That's the big Huey bolt.
Uh-oh.
Wow, so this one, imagine how that one threads into the
Well, it's difficult to start with, but once you get it going, it works out just wonderful. And, I have never needed a bolt like that.
Well, you
because-
know what's good about
Yes.
that bolt
No.
is if there's water at the bottom, it'll
Yes.
just kind of
Pool.
pool, and
Yeah,
so
fill it
there
in.
won't. Yeah,
No,
because
Sure.
it's filling the space.
filling the space. That's the whole idea of a bolt. All right, now this one is also a very specialized bolt.
That's the bolt that Bruce used in Alaska on his Mustang.
Well, actually, it could be because in Alaska they are quite different. This is for the one where you countersunk the wrong side.
yes.
I thought I was bad.
Yes, you countersunk the wrong side, so that's what this one's for.
That's
Who
right.
thought
because
of these designs? A
then it-
man?
Probably. And we're sure one of our next guests has probably had to use these bolts a
Well,
few
we
times.
should ask him.
We'll find out when he gets here.
That
Okay.
bolt is drunk.
No. This one's a special one. This is for those holes that are not quite lined up square.
That is a drunk bolt.
Well, kind of, but this is the one where you don't need the offset bolt. This one's just slightly tilted on an angle like someone who's drunk.
The Leaning Tower of Pisa bolt. You
You
go
know-
into
Yeah.
Pep Boys and say, "Do you have the Leaning Tower of Pisa bolt?"
Yes, I need
Yes.
an angle bolt.
That's right.
Oh, an angle bolt.
Angle bolt.
I feel like some of the steering
Angle-
linkage on cars I've
Yeah.
driven looked like this.
Angle bolt Humperdinck.
After the love and
Okay,
I'm
and now
still
this
in love
one,
with
Anna.
you.
No, that's
Hey.
not what it is, Anna.
Okay, that's the G-string bolt.
Yes, Anna, you would think that. And I can't even find the list. You got me going so badly on this one.
You know what? That's
It's
the
here
plumber's
someplace.
crack bolt.
That could be. All right, this is the one. This is the binocular bolt. This is the bolt for those double drilled holes.
I thought we already did that bolt. There's a lot of double drilling going on around here.
Stormy.
Okay.
So you double drilled the hole. It's too
where
wide.
can we purchase these?
Oh, you got to go online.
At Pacific Fasteners.
Yes, Pacific Fasteners has got these bolts, but we've got more. This is not all. This is the one that you need.
Uh-oh.
Yes. This is the assembler's special for those oversized and stripped holes. You put the first one in, and it's stripped. It won't grab.
That's
The
a strip-
second half of it will do it.
Is that a stripper's bolt?
Yes, a stripper's bolt.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
wow. Mm-hmm. Oh, how about that one?
This is for those double countersunk holes. You countersunk it once, it was too far down, so you countersunk it again, and it now fits.
I've not yet been able to do that, Bob, but I'll keep this bolt in mind.
Keep this bolt in mind. All right. Now, you were talking about one where you could get a pliers on. Well, here it is. The serrated head for all those vice grip torquing needs you have.
Yeah, because so often you get a bolt that wants just a hex head.
Yes.
And, sometimes if you don't have the right tool, the vice grip is the right tool. So
It
that's
is.
when I need a bolt like this.
Right. Now, and this is the standard, not the metric version.
Okay.
I think we should bolt on toward Elmer. I'm tired of these.
Oh, we just have a few more to go, and then we
Oh.
will start talking about our friend Elmer. Now, this is for those re-drilled holes that still don't match.
What drill bit does that?
Well, after the first time you break it, you've got a second hole.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're drilling wood, I've done that before.
Oh, yeah.
It breaks off and you got a heavy hand on it. It just starts drilling again.
Got to drill the second one. All right, and the next one. Oh, this one almost looks like a ballerina.
That's a tapered bolt.
That is tapered, all right, and it is for those special tapered holes where no nut is required.
Well, whoever is using that bolt is the nut.
Well, and we've proved it.
Are we nuts and bolts tonight on the show?
We are.
That's
all right.
my favorite bolt right there.
Those are the special bolts for this year for you. And in case you're working on a car and need one of these special bolts, you can contact Pacific Fasteners
at 1-800-809.
Oh, wait a minute.
OU812, yes.
OU812?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a Van Halen album. And by the way,
yes.
Bobby just called.
Bobby
He said
did.
he just came in. He just said, I turned on the show and I'm looking at bolts. What's happening?
Well,
bolts.
Show him the T-shirt that we're so happy that we have.
Yes,
we got
Bobby,
our
we do
T-shirt.
thank you. And,
We got our Dragmaster Hell's a Poppin' T-shirts in, and we all forgot to wear them except for Bruce.
Well, that's because Bob brought mine in right before showtime. So I think, let's see, we've got a photo here. Let's see
there it is.
There it is.
Yeah.
And we want to thank Bobby for the shirts.
Yeah.
We all have them. We just...
That's a cool car.
I washed mine the other day before I could put it on, and I forgot where I bolted it and put it. So
you bolted it?
I folded it.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not needed. No need to bolt it down.
Okay.
Hey, we need to invent a fold bolt.
A fold bolt.
Yeah.
Yes, that's for those overlapping sheet
Blonde
metal.
moments.
Yeah, blonde moments. We have a lot of those. All right. Hey, we're going to get off the comic sense, and we're going to talk about one of our friends. And unfortunately, one of the legends and flathead dragsters passed away a short time ago. And Anna, you and Stormy got to go up to the funeral and the services for him. On the phone right now with us is Stormy Bird, who's raced against him. And even with his blown small block Chevy powered dragster, got whooped by a flathead V8 Ford. And along with him is Tim Love. Tim's calling in. Tim has worked with Snyder. It's Unsprung Snyder, is as he was referred to, and Tim's on the phone with us as well. Hi, Tim. Hi, Stormy. How you guys doing?
Hey there. I guess you can hear me.
Anna and Bruce.
Yeah, we can hear you all. How you doing, Tim?
Okay.
Tim, what can you tell us a little bit? Can you tell us a little bit about Unsprung Snyder? How did he get that name?
Well, he started racing in '53 with a. There you go. That's a picture of the first car. It was full width. And he started. He lived up in Central California in Gustine. So I think it was in like '57. He narrowed the car and put a small block Chevy in it. And, yeah, there you go. That's the first iteration of the car with a small block Chevy in it without the bodywork over the top.
So judging by the cars in the background, that's about 1958.
And you know what? He probably would have whooped Stormy in that configuration, too.
Probably, yeah.
Well, that little car only weighs about 1,100 pounds.
Wow.
So, that car with the bodywork on it ran 155 miles an hour in the nines in the quarter.
Wow.
In 1953.
57.
57.
This car in 57. So
yeah, that's the
it
overhead
kept
valve.
running later on in 58 or something. I don't know what pictures we've got there.
We've got old gal popping a wheelie.
Yeah, he put the body on it and the front belly pan, and
isn't that a beautiful, streamlined car?
For the time,
yeah,
and even today, it's classic looking.
But he raced all over Northern California, and everybody, they paid him to show up.
Now, want to tell us why he got the name Unsprung?
Well, in '62 he was at either Belico or Kingdon. I think it was Belico, which he actually used to run, and the push truck broke. So the truck behind it was Bernie Partridge from NHRA, and Bernie got out of the truck and said to Snyder, "Today is the last day you run this car," because it was illegal. Because in those days you had to have a spring front suspension.
But he was so ahead of his time.
Yeah, so the rules were you had to have a spring front suspension. So Bernie got out and told him he was banned. So they said, And Elmer, he said to me, well, they always paid me to show up. They didn't care I didn't have spring front suspension. But I think that was the day that they named him Unsprung.
How about that? You know, it's amazing how rudimentary this car is, and yet it is just beautiful, given that, you know, the lack of frills, and we were mentioning the body work. But yeah, then you look at it without the body, and it's just, wow, everything is so basic, which is kind of cool.
You don't... I mean, it's basically a set of Model T frame rails bolted to a 39 Ford rear end.
Man.
And he didn't have tools, right? So he kind of made some of that by hand, right?
Well, he built the car in his backyard. I mean, he lived in Gustine and Newman. He didn't have any money, typical of people, you know, back in the 50s. So he whatever he had in the backyard was what he built the car with. Wow. And the roll cage in it is all hand bent with sand. Well, there's some later on pictures when I started driving the car, they made us put a roll bar over my head. That picture there, that's a guy by the name of Chet, who was the starter at Little Bonneville Drag Strip in San Jose in 1953 when Elmer started running the car. And that picture's from Fremont when they ran the nostalgia drags when they first started at Fremont. Oh. And that's me in the car.
Ah, that explains why you're sitting so tall.
Yeah, if you look at the other picture, you'll see Elmer sits down in the car. So we had to modify. We didn't have suitable seat belts. There you go. See how Elmer's head's below the roll bar?
Right.
Well, you actually sat on the belly pan.
There's Elmer.
Yeah, they sat on the belly pan. That's at one of the first nostalgia drags at Fremont when Elmer still lived in Hawaii.
Now, why did he go back to the flathead?
Well, when we got the car, this is probably 85, 86, something like that. That's Carl Franzen. That's my old Oldsmobile. We're on the start road there at Fremont. Uh-huh. He went back to the flathead. Because we just happened to have one that we could get. A friend of ours had it, and reality is they would have never checked that car with a. I mean, you know, when I checked the car, I told them it was a 12-second car. Oh, well, you go down and run a 9.5-second run with a Chevy V8 in that thing, they go, on the trailer, you're out of here.
Yeah.
You know, they would never let that car run with a Chevy V8 on it. Elmer kind of talked once a few years back about putting another Chevy V8. I said, no way. You know, they'll never let that car run that way. So it was, I mean, the last time we went to Fontana was 2 years ago. Anna would remember this. We ran an 11.5 at 118 miles an hour.
Wow.
With his eyes closed, basically.
Yeah.
I had Anna come and start him because Elmer had macro degeneration. So
that's the day he told me that he raced naked under his fire suit, and I went and hid in the trailer.
Yeah. This is a picture from Popular Hot Rodding, I think. That's me at Bakersfield. Yeah. And you can see the hoop over the top of my head.
Yeah.
Sure.
But we also put some bars in the bottom of the roll pan so that we had something to bolt seatbelts to. If you went back to the old picture of him in the old fire suit at Fremont, when we got the car out of the barn, it actually still had the bomber belts in it. That right there.
Oh, gee.
And that right there, the car has the bomber belts in it. Well, I think we ran a couple of times with the bomber belts, but
until they realized it.
Well, there was no way they were going to let you continue to run. So I tried to do. There's hardly anything on that car would pass check, really. So I tried to do the obvious thing, like the seat belts and a few other things. You had to pressurize the fuel tank with an air pump. Ooh. Of course, that's because there's no battery, no electric fuel pump, no mechanical pump on the engine. So, we pressurized the fuel tank with an air pump. And
he was most people don't know this, but he was a World War II veteran. who was in the Navy, and he was a mechanical genius. He would look at a tire and say it was 2 pounds under pressure, and he would be right. He was quite a guy, and crafty too, and very fast on his reaction times. And Stormy, you want to tell us the story about how he snowed you at Eagle Field?
I like these pictures though, because that's my old home. That's
I'll never live that down.
LA County Raceway. Not that one.
Stormy was the last victim of Snyder baiting.
Yep.
Tell us the story.
I was going to say, we were talking about the reaction time before Stormy tells the story. Early on, we went to the hot rod reunion at Bakersfield, and I remember this is a photograph of his mother painted that.
Oh,
that's the actual photograph. There's a painting. His mother was quite a painter. But anyway, Snyder had the fastest reaction time of anybody at the hot rod reunion.
Wow.
Now, this is Hawaii. This is the blown big block car, and he always ran gasoline. Mm-hmm. He was running 200 miles an hour on gasoline in the late 60s.
God. Wow.
So, I mean, he's forgot more about how to make horsepower than probably the next 1,000 other people ever knew.
Well, I didn't realize he'd run more state-of-the-art dragsters like that.
That was his last car. That car is the same car that's in the Fremont picture.
Yeah, okay.
Only when he went to Hawaii, he sold the small block and built the big block motor for it.
Got it. Okay.
Another fun thing about that is the last car Gene Winfield painted in Merced, I think it was, or Modesto, before he moved to L.A., was that dragster.
Wow.
Now, he drove that. Elmer drove that car for 60 years, didn't he? Same car.
It from probably the mid 60s until he quit in the 69. He shipped it. He took the small block motor out and shipped the chassis to Hawaii.
Okay.
And then he ran it with a big block in Hawaii. And he was top eliminator every year. Nobody could catch him. And but he told me, the story about the last night Stormy. You'll enjoy this, Stormy. There was the strip in Honolulu just had a light down at the end of it. There was, it wasn't lit past the starting area. So this particular night, he's hauling down there, and you just aim toward the light at the end of the strip. I guess basically he told me there's Tom Scardina from Monterey. Anyway.
That's Eagle Field.
When he got down, that's Eagle Field. Yeah, he got down to the traps, and he said the car just kind of bounced up in the air, and he pulled the chute, and the chute came out, and the car settled down. He got stopped, and he got out, and he said he turned around and looked, and here comes all the fire and safety equipment down the strip. And they all come down there, and they go, "Are you all right?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm okay." They said, "Well, we thought you turned over." "No, I didn't turn over." So he rolls the chute up, and he starts pulling the car back to the pits, and he hears this grinding sound on I think it was the right side of the car. So he stops and gets out, and the headers, the zoomies on that side of the car are crushed.
Oh.
Wow.
And you can see what happened was he hit something as he went into the traps. The car went up on its side, and just as it got on its side, the chute popped out and put the car back on its wheels.
Oh, man.
But he has no idea what he hit.
No.
He probably hit the light.
Something fell off some other car, and it was laying in the track.
Wow.
And, of course, there was no lights down there, so they couldn't see. So he said he pulled the car back to the pits, and he took it back to the shop, took the motor out, and sold the car. That was the last night he ran.
Wow.
All right, now, Stormy, why don't you tell us about your encounter with Unsprung at Eagle Field?
Well, the first time I ever met Elmer in the car was back in '86 at Fremont, the Nostalgia Nationals, and I didn't really talk to him much. I just went and checked his car out and fell in love with it, and I've seen it over the years. But it wasn't until about 5 years ago, I think about 2012, at Eagle Field that Rocky Phillips runs. Elmer was like the top dog of the day, and so was I. So Rocky suggested, we have a runoff, and Elmer says, well, you'll eat me up. I said, here's the deal, Elmer. Okay, we'll make it just like street racing, and we're basically racing on a parking lot almost. I said, I give you 4 cars, and I'm coming after your ass. And he goes, okay. So we get up there, I do my thing and everything, we're waiting, and JR, the flagman at the time, his wrist just barely twisted, and I hear Elmer's motor rev up and dump the clutch. And I realized I just had my ass handed to me, and I'm going, oh, Jesus. So I hit the throttle, and with the blower, I had some I had only like a 10-inch slick on it. The thing went up in smoke, and I'm thinking, is this thing smoking trying to catch Elmer? If I let up this throttle, they're going to think I gave it to him. So I never let up. I blazed those tires. He hit second gear. I saw the front end come up on the car. And he was about probably 10 feet out on me, and I went by him probably doing about damn near 140 at the finish line, and he beat me fair and square. And I'll tell you, it was, to me, it was one of the most cherished races I'll ever remember. I mean, it was an honor, and Elmer was just jumping up, and, and it was like, God damn it, Stormy, that was the best thing I've had. I mean, 90 years old, and he's the top eliminator. How cool is that? And, from there on, we became best friends, and just what a sweet man, innovator. They were talking about, Anna was talking about he'd look at a tire and stuff and say it was a couple pounds down. He could look at an injector and stuff. He'd go up and, the stories I heard, he'd lean it a flat and he'd go out and set the record at the track. But if you ever got to go to Elmer's shop, the guy had a massive amount of beautiful cars he restored and working on, and he had a collection of tractors also. He was putting a V8 60 flathead in one of the tractors. That's the kind of guy Elmer was. He was always in motion, and I will
damn near
never forget.
Killed himself the day he finished that tractor, Stormy.
Oh,
I was there. I helped him put the hood on it. We went out in the yard, and he spun donuts with it for about 20 minutes.
Oh, jeez, man!
I thought he was, those things, those 9 ends or 8 ends, whatever they are, had, like a 40 horsepower flathead 4-cylinder motor in them. So he just put a V8 60 in the thing that had probably 140 horsepower, and he went out. I thought he was going to kill himself spinning donuts.
That was Elmer. He was full of life. I mean, to the end, he's just, what a marvelous man. What a life. I mean, it just truly, you meet a lot of people in drag racing, but this was really a special man. He did it on his own terms. He had a great attitude, and like he said in that article that Anna did on him years ago, he just said, the NHRA, they're a bunch of pussies. That was Elmer's attitude.
Yeah, Wally Parks was not one of Elmer's favorite people.
No, that's part of the reason he ran Bellico Drag Strip, because he just did not like the politics with the NHRA and all that. But that's part of the deal. So Elmer did things on his own terms, and I totally respect the guy. And like I say, it was an honor to know the man.
When did we lose Elmer?
Well,
first
first part of February. Yeah, about 6 weeks ago now.
Okay.
There you go. There's a 1013 at 141. What's this? Kingdon. Yeah.
Kingdon. Okay.
They had scrapbooks. I have a lot of it scanned. Anna's seen quite a bit of it. Timing tag.
Now, Bob, do you know the story about Elmer in the very first Fuel and Gas Championships in 1959 at Bakersfield?
No.
Anybody told that story?
No. Go ahead, tell that, and then.
Well, there was basically Top Eliminator and Top Gas is one of the classes. And Elmer, with his little C dragster or D dragster at the time, he was kicking butt and he was moving up in class. Well, the last person he had to face in the runoffs was Tommy Ivo. And I gave Elmer the drag news, and I know all this is true. Well, Elmer, they went up for the final run, and Elmer left on him. And what happened was, there's in the pictures in drag news, Ivo went into a wheel stand and was dragging the push bar, and Elmer was just way out on him. Well, about 3/4 of the track down the track, Elmer, the car nosed over. he couldn't figure out what was going on. Well, what had happened is Jay Cheatham, who was one of the heavy hitters at the time and top eliminator, was killed earlier in the day.
Oh.
And Jay Cheatham's son was push starting Elmer because he came down from Newman, didn't have a crew, so he got Jay Cheatham's son. Well, when Jay Cheatham was killed, he hit a barrel or something, and it killed him. Jay Cheatham's son had to go back, he had to take care of his dad, so in all the confusion, Elmer was looking for somebody to push start him for the final round. Well, in all that confusion, he forgot to top up the tank. Oh. And 3/4 of the way down, he ran out of fuel. Otherwise, Elmer would have been the top gas winner at the very first March meet / it was really the Fuel and Gas Championships back in 1959. And like I said, I got the drag news. He explained how he got beat, and Ivo got the credit, but it was only because Elmer ran out of fuel. And I love Tommy Ivo. There's nobody better as for stories, and what a history, what a showman. But Elmer had him by the short and curlies, and unfortunately ran out of fuel just because of the death of Jay Cheatham.
Yeah, Jay Cheatham was one of Elmer's really close friends.
Yeah.
Well, that was in the early days. Now we know why all the safeties come about because of the races that we've lost over the years to this. Well, Unsprung Snyder's left his mark on drag racing history, and obviously as a friend and fellow racer to you guys. We're going to go on to a break now, but thank you guys for calling in. And anyone's got a question about Snyder, send it to us on our Facebook page. We'll get it to Tim and Stormy and get you an answer. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thanks for calling
Thanks.
in, guys.
Thank
Talk
you.
to you later.
Take
All
care.
right.
Family.
Whether it's a short trip or a long haul,
estimated time 47 hours.
They will beg.
You're hungry? I'm happy to provide.
They will plead.
Deep fried butter on a stick.
But whatever you do, don't wimp out.
Now you're talking.
Make them buckle up.
He can't hurt.
Remember, safety first. Cheese curls second.
Are you orange?
A full life, measured in seats, starts with the right ones early on. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Learn how to prevent deaths and injuries by using the right car seat for your child's age and size.
Hi. Hoping for a crisp breeze to help keep you alert. Oh, he took a sip of water too. That'll probably help. You were probably going to turn down the radio too, so you could focus, right?
Probably okay isn't okay.
Right.
If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
I think the water line is what really drove it home. I blew on him.
The Great American Auto Scene. You've got gas, I've got nitro, and we just
and I've got problems.
We just did a little education PSA on nuts and bolts that you missed, but we've got the tools to go with them in a minute. And we just talked about Elmer Snyder with Tim Love, his crew chief, and Stormy Bird, the ambassador of nostalgia drag racing. And now we're going to talk about legislation that affects the hot rod community and all the things you need to know to keep your hot rods on the street or on the racetrack.
On the racetrack, yeah. And we get the information from the SEMA SAN. Their automotive enthusiast group. And one of the things we're talking about tonight is a lot of things that are changing in the industry. But we talked about methanol earlier on today. And the problem with that is E15 is what they've mandated we use. E15 is a corrosive. It's ethanol. There are only a few cars on the road today that can operate on it. Yet EPA instituted 12% ethanol at the beginning of this year. So we're all running on more ethanol than most cars, let's put it that way, is capable of running on. Unless you've got a flex fuel vehicle, the 12% that is now at the pumps, everyone's getting 12%, guys. It's not 10%. I don't care what the pump says. EPA instituted 12% at the beginning of the year. It is corrosive to every car, unless it's a flex fuel car on the road today. Well, we're going to have lots to talk about on that, but there is a movement right now, and there is going to be a gathering in Washington, D.C. on May 17th, and it's part of the RPM Act as well. Now, the RPM Act is where the EPA and the federal government are trying to stop you from building a race car. You can do it with anything old, but if you happen to like the new Camaros or the new Mustangs and you want to build a race-only vehicle, not a street vehicle, but a race-only vehicle, they will stop you from doing it with a new vehicle. And Anna and I both got letters today, or earlier in this week, from our illustrious... What is she, a senator?
Yes, Senator Dianne Feinstein, who knows nothing about cars.
No clue.
No clue.
And she sends us a letter, and we both got the same form letter. It was kind of amusing. That tells us you can't modify a car and then use it on the street. So obviously she has no clue about what the RPM Act is and what the EPA is trying to do to stop race cars. And she's just oblivious to reality, as we see in most everything she gets involved with. But the RPM Act is not to modify street cars for street use. It is to take a current or a new car and make it a race-only vehicle. It's not to bring it on the street. And there are some cars that are coming directly from the factory, like the Copo Camaros and the Cobra Jets, and, well, some of the new Chrysler products that are going to be based on the Challenger, that are drag race only vehicles. They're not meant to be on the street. In fact, the Copo car only has a part number. It has not got a serial number. You can't register it on the street. But these are the things that, unless you've got the $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 to go out and buy a Copo car or a Cobra Jet from the factory, you cannot take a newer vehicle and make it a race car. So the RPM Act is to try and get that straightened out so that you can take a new vehicle, turn it into a race car, just like we've done for decades and decades and decades.
Yeah.
Not to use it on the street, but to use it on a racetrack. And the RPM Act will have a rally in Washington, D.C., May 17th of this year. Join in with them. You can check what it's all about at SEMA. Go onto the SEMA website and check out this, because it's there. Now, there's other laws that we're up against and things happening. There's a federal bill introduced to eliminate E15. And we talked about the E15 a moment ago, and I couldn't find my notes here, but now I found them. SEMA has legislation. It's called H.R. 1315 that's been introduced in the U.S. House of Representatives to cap the amount of ethanol that can be blended into conventional gasoline and cap it at 10%. This would prohibit the sale of E15 gasoline. That's 15% ethanol. That 15% ethanol is corrosive. It will eat your fuel lines, your fuel tank, any rubber hoses. It will eat anything that's pot metal on a car. And if you're running a carburetor, this will eat and etch a carburetor. Now, we used methanol and ethanol when we raced. My son had a dragster we did that with. After every race, every round, we change the fuel because the ethanol does not completely burn. It drains into the oil pan. It cuts the oil. It's going to do damage. If you leave it in over a weekend, you can start etching the carburetor. And in our case, we had aluminum heads and aluminum blocks, and the ethanol will, with atmosphere, start to corrode things like aluminum. So,
well, I have a question, or
Okay.
not a question, a concern. One of the things that bothers me is how the EPA is able just to put 12% ethanol into our gas, and then later on, the United States government comes and says, you can't do that. How does the EPA get that much power?
Well, it's part of the Clean Air Act that they've got that, and they're able to do that. And that's part of the problem, is the EPA is saying, oh, this isn't going to hurt anything, when they're not even looking at the reality of our cars, the reality of the cars on the road. Now, we did a little bit of a check before the show, or I did, and there are only about 10 or 15 models available today that are capable of running the E12 to E15 fuel. Yet that you're getting E12 right now whenever you buy fuel, unless you buy flex fuel or E15, which you can at some stations if you have a flex fuel vehicle. There's only a handful of cars that will run on that. So if you're buying E12 right now, you are going to experience trouble down the road. The other problem with that is the trouble you're going to experience is going to make the car pollute more. The exact thing they think they're trying to clean up, they're going to indirectly cause a problem.
Yeah.
They're going to be counterproductive to what they're doing. So get on this. Contact your representative, HR 1315, and that is to bring it back to E10, because that is still not great for our old cars. But it is better than the E15 and the E12 we're currently getting.
Well, at least you can put fuel additive in, like with my 66 Mustang, I put octane boost in there, and it kind of counteracts the...
And octane boost. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yes.
Yeah, I might have mentioned this already. This was a couple of years ago now, and it was running just E10 at the time, a little 170 6-cylinder engine, a little Ford motor that they would put in Falcons and Broncos. And I bought a new fuel pump off the shelf because the old one had gotten eaten by the fuel.
Yeah.
And the new one, after it was less than 6 months, the E10 ate it. I mean, there was actually a powdered, gooey aluminum on the outside of this thing after the diaphragm failed.
Yep.
Then there was just this puddle of weird liquefied aluminum. And,
kind of, yeah.
And so it was pretty obvious that this pump had sat on the shelf for a few years. It was a gasoline fuel pump. It wasn't made to handle this crap. Yeah, and it's like, man, come on.
Well, you know what happens when the diaphragm fails in your car? You get the alien corn baby from ethanol.
There you go. That's it.
Okay. Here we go off track again.
No, it's true.
It's true, yes.
It is so true.
All right, one of the other things that is coming from the NHTSA, your National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, they want to require V2V technology in new vehicles, which basically means vehicle-to-vehicle communication. So as you're driving down the road, your Beetle is going to start talking to the Mustang, and the Mustang's going to want to stomp it.
But it's happening now.
It's happening now.
It's happening now with General Motors and OnStar.
We were talking about this. This is where they want your cars the computers to sync up, I guess, as you're driving down the road. But one of the things that's happened in the last few years, a lot of high-speed chases.
Oh,
Cops we get the chases with cars.
Sure. And in the LA area, there was a couple of today.
Today, yeah. And as a matter of fact, the one today that was traveling at 100 miles an hour went past me in the carpool lane.
That was me, so I could get here on time.
Yeah, that was you. Yeah, you. Yeah, well, you spun out, and the cops got you. Anyway, what has happened is they're looking for alternative ways of chasing people. Instead of chasing someone and picking up speed and causing harm or damage to other people in their cars and so forth, they found a way to stop a car. And one of the things I found out a number of years ago was OnStar is cooperating with police departments. If you've got a General Motors vehicle that has an OnStar system on it, if you are trying to outrun the cops, they can call OnStar if they can get the VIN number of the vehicle. That's part of the problem. They've got to be able to get the owner, hopefully it's the owner in the vehicle, and so forth. OnStar can shut your vehicle down remotely.
I would imagine sooner or later, because if it's got license plates on it, they can reference it that way with the DMV, then they'll have the VIN number.
Yeah, and they can do that.
Yeah.
In the state of California for sure, in other states, I'm not quite sure how they do that, if they can reference it back, because in many states, you keep the plates. You transfer them from vehicle to vehicle.
Good point.
In California, the plates stay with the vehicle. So in states like California, that might be an easy thing to do.
Yeah. Well, that whole thing, too, and I think I was misinformed. I don't believe Mazda's Skyactiv is similar to OnStar, right? It is not a communication device. It's just kind of their branded in-car stuff.
Their system, I believe, is based on the Ford system.
Yeah, which is the Sync, perhaps?
Sync, yeah, because Ford owned Mazda for a number of years when they introduced the Skyactiv.
Yeah, and I don't believe either of those systems are like OnStar. I don't think they communicate. It's in-car stuff. So is OnStar the only sort of, satellite-fed info system?
No, I think Ford Sync is as well.
Oh, okay.
At this point.
All right.
And then BMW also has a system, and I believe it's also run by OnStar. But I'm not sure. At least they did a few years ago. It was OnStar, because when I went to a meeting, they were telling us how they know which call to pick up and how to answer the phone based on what line.
Oh, that's so funny.
So, yeah. So
hello, DirecTV.
Could be, yeah. Wait a minute, wrong car. Yeah. Okay, and one of the things we want to talk about SEMA's special titling and registration designations for street rods and customs, including replicas and kit cars, has led to an erasing of certain equipment standards and exemptions, or allowed exemptions, on emission testing that's allowed enthusiasts to enjoy the auto hobby legally and provide more business opportunities for industry. It's a way of getting kit cars and replicas and a car that you resurrect from parts registered. So in 22 states, SEMA has been able to get legislation through to help you in your hobby and your car.
Boy, that is good stuff. I'm trying to think of an example. I think all of us have rescued cars from parts, but there were enough parts contiguous to the car where it was still, okay, here's the VIN number because this door is on my car, and then you get it re-registered that way.
Well, a lot of the things came about when a number of years ago, if you're into the car hobby, you knew about the Boyd-Coddington rule. And basically, there was a raid on Boyd-Coddington's facilities. They found a kit car that he was working on. It was a Cobra kit car. Well, the owner of the car had registered it as a 64 Ford. This way it avoided all the emission standards of the engine and so forth, because it was a kit car. It should have been registered at the time in California. It should have been registered based on the year it was registered, not the year it resembled.
Yeah.
Now, through SEMA, that has changed, and now California allows you to register the vehicle based on the year of the engine, or there's a 750 vehicle exemption at the beginning of the year you can get. And I've not seen them go out and have too many of these run out, but you can get this exemption and register your car without having to meet the emission standards of the engine. So if you're building a kit car and you want to put one of the crate engines in, you can do that, and that's a non-year designation. Now, GM did come up with a kit engine, basically an engine that's emissions legal, that has a computer and so forth, and the smog devices, and that came about from the negotiations after Coddington got busted. Now, they ended up dropping a lot of the charges against Coddington because he didn't build that car.
Sure.
So it was registered and built by somebody else, but they watch the TV show and they're looking at Coddington's TV show and go, oh, you're building a 32 Ford. It's registered as a 32 Ford, but it's the only thing on it that's 32 is the appearance.
Yeah.
It's a Ridley body. It's sitting on a TCI chassis, and the only thing Ford on it is
maybe
the name.
A badge they found somewhere.
But that wasn't the only car that was traced back to Coddington. As a matter of fact, he was fined $6 million.
Yeah, he got in trouble over a lot of things that were coming out of that shop because of basically the way California registered cars at the time, and EPA. And there was a big, we were talking to someone who was there, and I forget who it was, but a friend was there when it happened, and they came in guns loaded. It was like a big SWAT.
Wow.
Wait a minute, this is a car shop.
Yeah.
We're not dealing in drugs here. But they came with the flak vests on and the weaponry, and they came in full force in military garb. And it was a big fiasco. But,
stand back, I've got a power tool.
Yeah, I'm going to haul up and tighten your nuts. I got a wrench. Anyway.
Back to the bolts again.
Well, the good news is, though, is that now you can, depending on your build, affordably have a Cobra or a
Cobra replica
or a 32 Ford without,
without having to have catalytic converters.
It's hard to find those cars today too.
Yeah.
Real ones. So you can have a replica and enjoy the appearance. Legally.
Have the fun of it. All right, that's enough laws. We've got tools for you. Not only did we show you bolts, we have the special tools you're going to need to work on these bolts. Now, this is from Black & Decker. It's a hammer and screwdriver set for the average woman in the house.
That's right.
Now, Anna, you probably have some like this, although this might be the
that
modified
looks like
version.
something from the pleasure chest. I don't know about that.
Well, it's
What
not
is
high
that?
heels, it's low heels, and it's a butter knife. What better thing to unscrew something than a butter knife? It's got just enough point that it'll go on Phillips or standard head screws.
So you're right. It's a sandal shoe. I know there's a name for that type of shoe, and a butter knife. What else do you need?
I don't know.
Yes. Okay, so let's see here. This is the Adobe Photoshop AB 1.0, the next big thing in photo manipulation.
George Barris had that kit.
Probably, yes.
Yeah.
He sure did.
That's how he stuck those fins on.
That's how it is, yes.
Oh, own glue or tape required. Love it. Oh, yeah.
All right, these are types of hammers you're going to need. The electronic hammer, for those people who haven't got the strength to swing it.
Yeah.
Anna's is over down
That's
in the,
mine at the
yeah,
bottom.
At the bottom, yes. And then there's the one that you bought on sale. It's the weak hammer.
Yeah,
And
no longer
I had one of those once. I think it was in the table for 99-cent type stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Those actually help control the amount of pressure that so you don't make noise for the neighbor.
Yeah, it absorbs shock.
Yeah, it's a torque hammer. So
yes, a torque hammer.
Yeah, after a certain moment, it gives.
Yes.
Too much pressure.
The multi-purpose hammer that has the beer cap
That's
remover.
a fabulous tool.
Yes.
You know, the tool that I'm fighting is, and this is in the weak, no longer useful category, is those cheap wire brushes that have the wooden handles, and a few brushes and all the wires start falling out.
Bristles come out, yeah.
I'm going, who makes this crap?
All right, here we go. What do we have there, Bruce?
It is fine print is ladies or low testosterone male pink tool set. It's a 6-piece set for $10, and yes, everything is it's just pink.
But you know what? You can find that tool in your messy tool drawer because it's bright and it'll stand out.
Yeah,
yes,
I
it
guess.
will.
Yeah,
all by itself.
Yeah, it's all by.
All right, the Medicure set for the guy that you know has everything. The screwdriver, the razor knife, and of course,
man, that's what I. Yeah, the box
needle
cutter.
nose pliers.
That is for ingrown toenails.
Oh, is that what that one's for?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just grab a hold.
And the screwdriver is really the nail cleaner. You know, you put it under.
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Yeah,
I bet Stormy has this set.
He needs it.
He needs it.
That's what I use.
All
That's
right.
me and Stormy right there.
There you go. This is your cake topper for those of you getting married. The tool cake topper.
Look at this, man.
Isn't that fabulous?
And that actually is a cake topper, folks.
It really is.
It really is. When I was getting one made for my wedding a year ago, I found this one, and it is a regular production. You can buy them. They're about $50, and you can get this cake topper for your next wedding.
God, it's perfect.
Where can we get that from? Just Google it?
Yeah, just Google it. I found them on the internet.
Looks like one of those Optima batteries with the individual cells down there.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. We got the concrete vibrator here, and this is from Chicago Electric. We all know where those come from, overseas, but of course sold locally by Harbor Freight Tools.
Yes, and with the extra long shaft.
That's right. It's a must for construction work, patching. Let's see, removes air bubbles from concrete, chrome-plated steel connector for vibrator and shaft.
You guys have dirty minds. That is just for vibrating concrete. It's nothing
That's right.
more.
No, nothing more.
Of course.
Uh-oh.
Neither is this. This is just for sharpening. This is actually a pencil sharpener that came out of Miss Feinstein's office.
Yeah.
In Washington.
Yes, and the yellow figure there would be us.
Yes. Actually, Jerry Brown also has one of these. He just raised our gasoline tax by 12 cents a gallon.
Can you believe that?
And our vehicle registration up to $175 more per year because they've been robbing money from the gasoline tax we've been paying to do other things, and now they go, oh, our roads need repair, we need more money.
Yeah.
Well, if you stop stealing the money from the transportation money that you've been getting, you would not need to tax us
Now,
more.
did that go up for a vote?
It did.
No.
And
did we vote
yes,
on
it
that?
did,
But
and
only,
it got it.
But only legislatively, right? I mean,
It's passed.
yeah, but
We didn't get to vote on it.
we didn't get to vote on it.
No, heaven forbid. We don't know what's good for us. Just ask Jerky Brown.
Yeah. Hey, crank it.
Governor
We need to
Moonbeam.
send him that.
We do, because he's done that to us a number of times.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, boy. Oh.
And the final tool of the night, This is the one where you know you can't get the jaws of the wrench on the nut, but you know you can finger tighten it.
That will come in very handy, that tool.
Yes, you can. Yes,
Yeah.
and I know which way you're thinking on that one.
You know, this one, too, I've often... You get a bolt that feels finger tight. If you're taking a nut off a stud or something or other, and you're unscrewing it, and darn if that thing halfway through, it won't turn anymore. It's like, this thing is finger tight. What's going on here? This is the perfect wrench.
This is the finger tight
I would use
wrench.
that to open a pickle jar because I can't get the tops off of it.
Pickle jars, yes.
Yo, pickle jars. Hey.
All right, and we'll close it out with this one. This is the MacGyver tool. It will do anything you want. It's a paper clip.
Yeah, he says, by the way, the quote at the bottom is, a paperclip can be a wonderful thing. More times than I can remember, one of these has gotten me out of a tight spot. As seen on TV.
As seen on TV. All right, Bruce, the last thing of the night, let's talk about a car show that's coming up. July 1st at Irwindale Speedway. It's Night of Destruction again, and it is Rings and Rods Tool. And it's July 1st. And what this is
the most fabulous event ever.
Last year, during the 4th of July festivities at Irwindale Drag Strip, it was actually July 2nd, I got married on the starting line with 4,000 of my closest, newest friends, plus 50 friends with hot rods and customs. So my wife and I decided, Peggy's all behind this, and that's her and I in our wedding garb. That is how we dress for our wedding.
Good
that
for
is
you.
her 46 Ford and my 48 Plymouth.
Oh.
We're going to do it again. This is Rings and Rods 2. It's our first anniversary, but it's the second Rings and Rods event. Anyone who wants to renew, I say renew your vows. Peg says they didn't expire. So she said reconfirm or recommit.
Sure.
In your wedding, and in recognition of Peggy and Bob Beck merging our car collections in matrimony a year ago, we want to offer the same opportunity to others as well as those who want to reaffirm their vows, as she said. So what we're doing is, I'd like to see a limit of 50. If we get 60 couples, not a problem. The requirement is you got to have a hot rod, a muscle car, a race car, or a low rider. And you can come in to Irwindale.
What about a motorcycle?
No.
Oh.
Does the husband and wife component here, depending on how your marriage is structured,
yes,
each person has to bring in a car, or can the couple bring in one car? They
can both bring cars in individually, but each car gets two people in free.
Okay. Oh,
now we're going to have a special parking area behind a locked gate, so no one can come and steal your car. It's going to be out there. You get into the races free. It's going to be Night of Destruction, demo derby, all sorts of great things, fireworks show and all. Your significant other, your car, get in free.
So much fun.
And we're going to have Joe Walla from the King's Surf Band.
They're great.
They are great. He is an ordained minister. He will perform the ceremonies. And we're going to do it on the starting line during the driver autograph session before the racing begins at 5:45 p.m.
And he
on
looks
July
like
1st.
David Lee Roth.
He does.
He's going to get married.
If you want to get involved in this, if you'd like to reaffirm your vows or get married, and we've already got Victor Salazar and his betrothed are going to get married on the starting line that night. We've got Skip Davis, and we've got one of the top nostalgia dragster drivers coming in. Now, I'll tell you who that is later on.
You tease.
I know. But so far, we've got 6 couples that are coming in, and we just released this a couple of days ago. So it's July 1st, Irwindale Speedway. Go on to the Facebook, look me up. Send me a private message saying you want to become part of this. I don't get notified when you post on the regular website or regular pages. So private message me, like the page that shows this flyer, and you're in. There is no cost to you. Now, we probably will pass a hat to defray costs for Joe and so forth. And I will have, for the first 50 couples, we're going to have a commemorative pin, Rings and Rods 2, to signify you've been married at Irwindale Speedway. So rare.
So much fun. And don't
It
forget
is.
to bring food for hot dogs and hamburgers.
Oh, they're going to be hot dogs and hamburgers there, tube steaks and burgers. You can get fine dining there. Now, if you want, what I'm suggesting is if you're going to do this and you're going to invite friends and family to show up, go on the Irwindale Speedway website and buy your tickets now. Last year when we did this, they had a sellout. Some of the people that I had invited couldn't get in. You want to have all your family there, your friends, get them to buy tickets now. I believe the tickets are going to be $15 online. You can buy your tickets online for this event. It will be a sellout. I can guarantee you that. It has been so far. The first race of the year was in March. It's sold out. As cold as it was here in March, it's sold out. July 1st is always a sellout. Well, not always. Since last year, when we got married, it got a sellout. And I'd like to say it's our fault. But
yeah.
Fireworks, demo derby,
skid plate racing,
late model cars. There's actually a real NASCAR race called Late Models that will run, and the fun stuff, the demolition, the carnage of cars, plus getting married on the starting line.
God, what a
Let me know.
great
Contact
idea.
me. Bruce, our hour is gone.
Bob, Anna, I'm apparently speechless.
So much fun.
Blah, blah, blah.
Never a dull moment here.
I've been hearing you on local radio, Bruce. You are not speechless.
Oh, boy, I got a lot to say, and apparently people leave their mics on, and then I just get to say it. It's like, have we had enough of me now? I think so.
By the way, happy April Fools.
Yeah.
All the tools and
For all the
bolts.
tools. And then on a serious note, happy Easter and Passover to those of us that observe those things.
Indeed. Hey, thanks for joining us. Now, as you know, as longtime viewers and longtime listeners may know, our encore presentation on this very same channel airs next. And from all of us at Great American Auto Scene, thanks for watching tonight, and we'll see you next time right here.
Bye.